Hello everyone, and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show, where I try to help you spend your wine dollars wisely. How do I do that? I review the wines, I grade them, then it's up to you. I review, it's up to you. And you know what? Valentine's Day is this Saturday, and I know a lot of people out there call it the Hallmark holiday, and that kind of one of those holidays where everybody kind of feels obligated to do something for their significant other. I know my wife and I, we don't always feel obligated to do something. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, and she's good with that. So we're both okay with that. That's awesome. But my wife is also not a wine drinker, which is kind of funny, I think. So I don't have to worry about picking out a wine for my wife. However, I know a lot of you out there will do that. You will want to have a bottle of wine. Perhaps you decide you're going to make dinner. You want to buy some flowers and a bottle of wine for your wife or your girlfriend or somebody you're interested in. So where do you go? What do you do? Well, I think one of the most romantic wines would be Pinot Noir. I say that because a lot of people that are interested in wine are interested in Pinot Noir. We know the movie Sideways got kind of everybody thinking that way. That's a trend that's continued. As a wine guy, I really like that. I give accolades to that movie for getting people on the Pinot Noir train. It's just sad that it took Hollywood to do that. But if you're going to do Pinot Noir, which Pinot Noir are you going to use? Well, my suggestion to you, unless you know your wife's palate or your girlfriend's palate or that girl you're interested in, their palate, well, hopefully you know your wife's palate. We'll leave that part out. But let's say you have a girlfriend, somebody that you're not that familiar with, and you want to go Pinot Noir. My suggestion would be to go Cali. And the reason I say go California is because California Pinot Noirs tend to have a little more baby fat, a little more of that California sunshine going on, which makes the wine a little bit more in that middle road of where people like it. You go out and go buy a Burgundy and it's a little bit stinky, funky like they can be, you're taking a chance. You could go Oregon, but a lot of times Oregon Pinot Noir can be more like Burgundy. Has a little bit more of that leanness, that acidity. Maybe you don't want to go there. Go Cali. And the cool thing about California is there's places they probably shouldn't grow Pinot Noir, and there's places that they do very well growing Pinot Noir. And we have 3 areas from California where Pinot Noir does really well. So let's get started. And remember one thing, when you're going for that special day, whether it be Valentine's Day, birthday, anniversary, don't get chintzy. Be careful not to go cheap on this one, baby. Especially if you're trying to impress somebody. You're trying to impress that girl. Don't get too cheap with Pinot Noir, because you start getting down in those lower end Pinot Noirs. They're great for somebody that, like myself, who enjoys just want to have a glass of Pinot Noir, not really worried about the price point. I like the little funkiness of a Pinot. I like high acidity in my Pinot Noir. So I can deal with those 15 and under Pinots from time to time. But when you're going for Pinot Noir, Valentine's Day, anniversary, just trying to impress your date, I would suggest not getting too cheap. So, here we go. The first one I'm going to do is a 2009 Cambria Julia's Vineyard Pinot Noir, Santa Maria Valley. Now, Santa Maria Valley is in the Central Coast, near Santa Barbara. They get a lot of marine influence in their wines. This goes for $25. This is part of the Kendall Jackson portfolio. They own Cambria. And they're actually in that part of that region that's just a skosh warmer. Sorry. Okay. Than some other areas of that particular Santa Maria Valley. But that being said, this is an area in Cali where they do Pinot Noir really well. So let's see what we got here. Santa Maria Valley, Central Coast. Let's see what we get on the nose. So a lot of like cherry cola notes coming out. Just a hint of root beer, kind of a dustiness to this one, which is interesting. And although we would love it if our date really took time and sniffed the wine, really got the aromas on, I'd be ecstatic, but chances are that's not going to happen. Okay? So don't worry about that, her getting the dusty elements on the nose. Now I get a little cranberry, cherry underneath. Very nice aromas, a little bit of red flowers coming through. Let's see what we get on the palate. I like my new bucket. It's less likely to splash on me. Again, really proud of the Seahawks. The last 2 years winning the NFC Championship. Anyway, back to this. Very smooth, very polished on the palate. Has that delicious factor. A lot of currants and cherries coming through. This Pinot is a little one-dimensional, and for those of you that are looking for more complexity in your Pinot Noir, you may not be excited about this wine, but I do like the fact that it's polished. It's got good cherry notes, a little bit hint of root beer coming through, a lot of red flowers, not a lot, I mean there's red flower notes coming through. A little bit of little touch of tannins on the end. You know, if you're with somebody you're not positive what they like, you might go for this wine. It has a good. It's like a. I would give it like a 7 to 8 in the delicious category. Very polished, very smooth, very elegant. You know, it'd be hard pressed for somebody to say they didn't like this Pinot Noir. I have trouble with the price point at $25 for what you get. I'm going to go C+ on this wine. However, that being said, C+, a little above average. That being said, the only reason I give it a C+, I think it's a little bit overpriced for what you're getting. But, you know, if you want to spend a few bucks, $25 on a bottle of Pinot Noir, you might be able to get it at a better deal than that. I think that it would definitely be pleasing to your date if you're not sure what they like. Let's move on. Did any of that? I hope that made sense. Yeah, anyway. 2012 Steel Pinot Noir Carneros. And this rolls in at $21. Now, talk about a place for Pinot Noir. In the Sonoma, actually, for those of you who don't know this, there you go, steel label, classic label. Carneros is an appellation that both Napa and Sonoma share, Los Carneros. But the Petaluma Gap allows a lot of fog. No, wait a minute. No, excuse me. Carneros is I was getting ahead of myself. Carneros is a classic area for growing Pinot Noir in Sonoma and, well, mostly in Sonoma and in Napa. It is a lot cooler in Carneros than it is in other parts of Sonoma. So you want it to be a little bit cooler than normal for Pinot Noir, because Pinot Noir actually thrives in a cooler climate. That's why both the Santa Maria Valley and Carneros are classic places for Pinot Noir. So if you're looking for Pinot Noir, Santa Lucia Highlands is also another area, but not getting sidetracked here. Carneros, classic place for Pinot Noir. And it's in southern Sonoma. Let's see what we get on the nose. This This one's a little challenge on the nose, which I find very interesting. I'm getting a little bark component, cherries. Actually kind of surprised that I'm not getting more aromatics out of this one. I think my nose is doing okay today. A little earthy, which is kind of interesting. Let's see what we get on the palate. This has a touch more acid than the Cambria, for sure, but it still has that nice, smooth cherry currant thing going on. I get red flowers just like in the other one. Just a hint of black tea, a little bit of root beer element coming through. Very polished. This is a little more earthy than the Cambria by far. Not by far, just a little. That was a total contradiction. This is a little more earth driven than the Cambria. So this has more earth elements, more bark, a little bit of baked earth going on. But it's not Burgundian. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't have any funk to it. It's pretty polished. It's pretty nice Pinot Noir. Again, I'm telling you, either one of these Pinots would be really nice to take on a date, Valentine's Day, or we'll stick to Valentine's Day. You take it to your girlfriend, your significant other, your person of interest. Bring this Pinot Noir. They're going to drink it. They're going to like it because there's not anything about it that requires an what am I trying to say? That requires a certain kind of palate. That requires a certain kind of interest. This is polished, smooth, a little bit of acid, would go well with food, but you don't have to have it with food. Certainly good by itself. I'm going to go B- on this one. 21 bucks. It's a little bit better value than the Cambria. Still not a lot going on. I'm actually kind of surprised. But it's a little bit better than the Cambria, so I'm going to go B- on that. Let's move on to the next one. Actually a little disappointed in those two wines. They're both on the boring side. Let's move on to the next one. Now talk about not holding back on your dollars. Paul Hobbs, Pinot Noir, Russian River Valley, Sonoma County, 2012. This rolls in at $60. Now, I've always been a huge fan of Paul Hobbs. There we go. See that? Paul Hobbs. So Russian River Valley is the one that is affected by the Petaluma Gap, where the fog rolls in. And this Paul Hobbs is located really close to Green Valley, which is an AVA in there. Really cool climate there, and which again is great for Pinot Noir. You'll see a lot of classic Pinot Noir coming from the Russian River Valley. Let's see what we get on the nose. This one has just a touch of Asian spice. I get a little bit of a black tea component. Dark cherries for sure. A little bit of dusty, earthy component coming through. Let's see what we get on the palate. This baby has a load of Asian spice, rounder cherries, a little bit of black raspberry underneath the cherries. A lot more going on, a little bit of a black tea, Earl Grey tea component coming through this one. Much more polished, rounder, but yet still strikes that nice balance with Pinot Noir with a little acidity on the back end. If you want to impress your date with a great Pinot Noir and you're willing to cut loose on 60 bucks, I would go Paul Hobbs. Certainly a classic Pinot Noir from Cali. You can get a little bit of that California sunshine on it, even though it's a cooler climate. It certainly is probably more than likely warmer than Oregon, the Willamette Valley. But that being said, it has classic Pinot Noir flavors of the cherries, the black raspberry. It has the tea component coming through. It has the Asian spice, which, by the way, Asian spice is a huge play when you're talking Côte d'Or, Côte de Beaune, those regions over in Burgundy. Classic for having Asian spice. This has that element going on. What I like about this wine especially is the underlying acidity. When we talk about the structure of a wine, the complexity of a wine, it has to have fruit, acid, tannins. This has all of those well integrated, and nothing bad about these two wines. Don't get me wrong, C+, B-, nothing to sneeze at. They're certainly good wines, but if you really want to impress somebody and you're not sure if they like Pinot Noir, but you want to bring something to the plate that will really impress them, Paul Hobbs would do it all the way. I am going to go in with an A on the Paul Hobbs. And let me tell you, it has nothing to do with the price. It has something to do with what you get in the glass. So, by the way, shout out to James the Wine Guy. If you ever are on YouTube, well, you are on YouTube, obviously. You might want to hit James the Wine Guy. He just did an episode on Australian wines, which I found very interesting. In fact, I'm going to link it up below so you can watch it. He's a very interesting guy. I actually would like to do an episode with him on Washington wines. We're trying to work that out. Being kind of computer retarded, I'm having trouble figuring out Google Hangouts, how to work that out. But I do plan on doing an episode with James on Google Hangouts. We're working on it. I'm going to make sure we do some Washington wines together on that. But he does do a shout out to Australian wines, which I really appreciate that he's doing that, because we do need, as people, to look to Australia. But when it comes to Valentine's Day, aside from sparkling wine, I think Pinot Noir is the sexiest thing that you could bring to the table for your date. Here's a couple more. I'm going to see if I can find a couple more Pinot Noirs to review, because I wasn't really super happy with those two. Love the Paul Hobbs. I'll try and find something a little less than 60 bucks for you guys to try. Thanks for watching. And remember, wine is not a mystery. It is just fermented grape juice. Stay true to your palate. Always be willing to try new things, and never let anybody tell you what you should or shouldn't like. If you do that, together, we can take the snob out of wine.